Hi everyone, I'll just come on to the screen. Hello, welcome to the very first Inside Dancers Community Hangout. We'll be exploring the real issues that dancers face together. So first of all, if you haven't already, I encourage you to scroll down to the just under the video screen at the bottom there's a chat role. Sign in, say hello, and if you want to, you can just sign in as a guest and leave your name or any other kind of acronym that you want to come up with, avatar I mean, just so you can have a chat with everyone, say hello. If something springs out to you while you're listening, just write it in and share. Maybe there's someone else who needs to hear what you have to say, and maybe you can encourage each other. Keep it respectful in the chat. We're all here to help each other and support each other, not diss each other, so just keep that respectful. And I really hope that that's a really great space for you to be able to get together and make this a real community hangout and not just me talking to you. Okay, so because this is our first Inside Dancers Hangout, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself and also to introduce these hangouts and what my vision really is for them. So I'm Philippa. I run Here to Help Dancers, which is a counselling practice. I also run workshops and courses, both in person and online, to help dancers to overcome the mental and the emotional blockages that keep them from dancing at their best. So I'm really happy that you're here, and I'd love to be able to help you too through this hangout and in any other way as well. So I'm basically doing these hangouts because I really believe, well, I call them Inside Dancers Hangouts because I believe that the best dancing really comes from the inside out. And I realize in my work with dancers, I've noticed there's a few things that come up again and again and again. And so regardless of skill level or where someone is in the world or anything like that, their nationality, I noticed that a lot of dancers are going through very similar issues, whether that's feeling fat and ugly or doubting themselves, perfectionism, fear of failing, or really generally a fear of just being themselves. There's some things that a lot of dancers struggle with. But the other thing I notice is that a lot of dancers think that they're the only one. I'm the only one who's feeling this. So this tells me that there's something pervasive in the dance world that is in our culture that's fueling and sustaining these issues for dancers. And the other thing is that I'm noticing is that these things aren't being talked about. So if people can go on thinking that they're the only one who's afraid of failing or the only one who feels bad about the way they look, then it means that we're not communicating about these things. So I want these hangouts to really be a space where we can bring those issues out into the open, and we can talk about them and discuss them in the way that's going to help us all to move forward from them. So first, I'd love to help those people who are struggling with these issues to be able to say, oh, I'm not the only one. And also for, to have some sense that as we collectively are able to talk about them and change the way we act and the way we approach these issues, that we might actually be able to create a big shift in our dance industry on how, and we can start to adopt practices that are based on current research about how dancers learn best and work best and, how people are most creative. So, I really hope that we can change things and not just have teachers that pass on what they learnt from their teachers and the way they were treated, but we can actually really start to make a new way forward. So, yeah, that's what these hangouts are about. I'd love it to be also an Inside Dancers hangout that you can get on the inside of and really make a community where you can share and encourage each other. Yeah, so I think that's that. So on to this month's topic, which is body image. So I just want to start by talking a little about what body image is and how it comes up in the dance world. So let me just grab I've got a little definition here if I can find my slides. There we go. Okay, so, oops. Wait a minute. Like I'm a bit lost here. What's happened? Okay, hopefully you're seeing my slideshow now. Are we there? There we go. All right, so hopefully we're here all together. So the definition of body image, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a subjective picture of one's own physical appearance, which is established both by self-observation and also by noting the reactions of others. So body image is about the way you see yourself. It's how you think and feel about the way you look. It's the conclusions that you draw about who you are as a person based on the way you think you look and the way you think other people perceive your appearance. So it's interesting because it's actually, body image is not about how you look. We often think it is, but it's actually about how you think you look. And that really is a critical difference. You might say, well, how I look and how I think I look are about the same. But often, and especially for dancers, they're not the same. So the problem is when we think that body image issues are about our appearance or about our body shape, we're getting it wrong. So if we think that body image is about body shape and how we look, we think that the solution for body image concerns is to look at things like diet and nutrition and exercise and cardio and things that will change our appearance. But this is really like treating the symptoms and not the real cause of the problem, because the cause of the problem is our perception. So when we have a negative body image or a low body image, we think, most of the time we have a low body image when we think we're fat or we feel we're ugly. And there's a little bit of a belief, that in the dance world especially, a lot of people talk about feeling fat. And that, I want you to know that fat in terms of body image is not a figure on the scales or on a measurement around a certain part of your body. It's not a fact. It's really a feeling. And because body image is about perception, you can feel fat even if you're underweight. You can feel fat if you're overweight. You can feel fat if you're normal. And so it's really, fat is often, for dancers, is often actually a real disguise for shame. So we feel bad about our body, and usually the way we express that is we say we feel fat. And so if we want to change our body image, we actually don't need to look so much at diet and exercise. Although I do think having a great diet and doing exercise and doing your cardio, doing your Pilates and all those things is really important. But if we're doing those with the motivation of changing our body image or making ourselves happier with our bodies, it's not necessarily going to work. You can change your appearance, but it won't necessarily change your body image. If we want to change our body image, we need to start looking at how we perceive ourselves, the beliefs that we have about ourselves, the way we think and talk to ourselves, the conversations we have with others about our bodies. If we want to be happier, we actually need to start looking at who we are and the way we see ourselves. And then the diet and the exercise is a sort of side effect of having a positive body image. When you like your body and you love your body, you are confident in your body, you actually want to take care of it. You want to nurture it. And so diet and exercise come in as part of the solution once that internal shift has happened. So that's kind of an overview on what body image concerns are. I just want to go on to say how they happen in the dance studio. So, people ask why do dancers struggle so much with body image? They're all, really skinny. Why would dancers have any issue with the way they look? They have kick-ass bodies, according to non-dancers, a lot of the time. But I think the fact that we stand in skin-tight leotards in a room full of other people wearing skin-tight leotards and clothes, usually in a room which is wall-to-wall with mirrors, and we usually have a teacher giving us evaluative comments about our appearance and our movements and the way we are moving. And, you know, step that up a notch when you go on stage and you have an audience full of people who are looking at you. They are looking at your body. They are looking at the way you are dancing, and they are evaluating you, or they applaud if they appreciate what they look. And it's very hard to separate our body from our art when you are dancing. And this is what makes dance so beautiful and so moving, but it's also what makes dancers so often so insecure about themselves, because it's so hard to separate myself, who I am, from how I look. So let me just come back here and where am I? Here we are. Oh, was I even showing you those images? Oh dear, I've just come back and maybe I was here the whole time. So if I've been looking vague, it's probably because I thought I had my slides up. Okay, well, here I am, I'm back again. If you didn't see those slides, I'll maybe have to attach them somehow for you to see them later. Okay, so I know that fat is not something that is a physical term. From my own experience, I remember when I was a dancer and we had a room full of dancers, and I was in a classical ballet company in Germany, and I was dancing, and I would dance in the studio with 30 other professional dancers, and I would say that every one of those people in that room would be considered thin by world standards, by healthy standards. They were possibly even bordering on under the healthy weight range. And yet you'd talk to someone before class and they'd be standing there looking at their body in the mirror, trying to get their clothes on and saying, oh, I'm so fat, I can't wear this. This looks horrible on me. Look at my thighs, they're so big, I'm a heffalump. And so this shows me that fat's really not something that is related to any external reference, but it's really about a way we feel about ourselves, a shame that we have about our body and really who we are because of that. So why do dancers struggle? It's got a lot to do with what we see in the mirror and how we evaluate ourselves and how we are evaluated by other people. We also have a really strong image of the ideal dancer in the dance world, particularly classical ballet. And I know that not everyone watching this is into classical ballet. Dance has a big spectrum and a broad spectrum, and unfortunately, fortunately, there is a lot more healthy body image in some of the contemporary and commercial dance styles. There's a little more tolerance for diversity in body image. But I will say that the classical body is still, a lot of us, even if we're, you know, dancing on Broadway or in a contemporary style, most of us came from little kids dancing their fairy twinkle toe ballet classes. We all started with this ballet as kind of, most people start with ballet, and it's somehow held up as the sort of ideal anyway, that if you make it in ballet, then you really made it. And if you didn't quite, you go to contemporary. And, you know, I really don't like that opinion, that way it is. But that is often the way it's seen. And so even if we're dancing in different styles, often we're very strongly influenced by that classical body ideal, because it really, we adopt it and then we move on to another style, but we still carry on that ideal of, I know it's okay in this realm to have this type of body, but in my head, I still think I need to look like that. So, I mean, in today's ballet world, we have dancers that are epitomized for their, you know, ideal classical body. So at the moment, there's people like Svetlana Zakova and David Holberg that are considered to be these, you know, almost gods of, you know, physical attributes that are just perfect for dancing. And when our industry idealizes these people and their bodies, well, it's a big pressure for them to maintain a sense of how can I carry this, but also it for the rest of the world, it puts a lot of pressure on us to say, well, if that's how I'm supposed to look, then I'm obviously not good enough. This is where the shame comes in. So when we start to see that there's this real ideal, it we compare and we start to compete based on our appearance, not based on our effort or our skill or our character. We really start to look at appearance as a way of judging ourselves, which is unfortunate because appearance you have really so little control over. You can change certain things. You can change, you know, a limited amount by diet and exercise and these things, or plastic surgery. Who knows? There are ways to change things, but it's very little that we can change about our proportions and our, you know, the parts of our body that feature greater than the others. I just want you to think for a moment about body image a bit like a caricature. So a caricature is a kind of cartoon, if you're not familiar with them, where someone often draws a caricatures at markets, and they'll be there and they'll, you know, if you've got a big nose, they'll make it really big. And then, you know, if you've got a small waist, they'll make it really small and your hips really large. And so often body image is a bit like a caricature. The image we have in our heads is actually quite different to the image that we see or that other people see when they look at us. So just have a think for yourself. When you look at your caricature in your mind, your picture of your body image, what features are accentuated or exaggerated, and which ones are kind of minimized or diminished? I'm just going to give you a moment to get that picture in your head. I know for myself, I probably have shoulders that were much bigger than they really are. I'd probably have much bigger thighs than they really are. I'd probably have, you know, no waist whatsoever, really small head. But I guess this, when we start to look at what the caricature is, we start to see where maybe our image of ourselves is not quite accurate and it doesn't match up with reality. Yeah. Okay. So how do dancers struggle with body image? Well, it comes around. There's so much focus on appearance. We idealize these certain dancers and their bodies, and you know, and unfortunately in our industry, we also, people with a ideal body tend to get more attention. They tend to be appreciated more by their teachers. Their teachers think, wow, this person has so much potential. And so they're given more opportunities. Often people with better bodies are given more opportunities. They're given more attention, they're given more roles, they're given more jobs. And this creates a really a big problem for people, for dancers with body image, because it promotes the idea that thin equals good or employable or promotable. And what the alternative is fat or normal. Normal is bad. Normal is not employable. Normal is not promotable. And so this is where people start to try to go down the paths of using eating and exercise as ways of trying to shift their appearance in order to fit that mold that's going to make them good and promotable and employable. So yeah, I suppose this is a call out also for the dance industry as well, to say, how are we presenting dancers to the world? How are we, what image are we giving to young dancers to what is acceptable? And is this really healthy? I think of a few years ago, the New York City Ballet soloist, Jennifer Ringer, when she was called out in the media for, in one of her reviews, for having had a sugar plum too many, and you know, saying that she was looking overweight when she was certainly not clinically overweight. She was very much in a normal weight gain. She had a history of you know, eating disorders. So this is something that's actually very close to home for her. And yet we can say things and we just don't realize how this is affecting others. And I guess that's where we need to stand up as an industry and say, how are we actually going to change this? How are we going to shift the way we see a dancer's body so that it is going to raise up a next generation of dancers that don't have to worry about being, you know, super tiny in order to get a job, or to think that they're good enough, to believe in themselves, to enjoy their dancing, to get the most out of their bodies that they can, when, yeah, without having to think that they, you know, need to be skinny and someone that they're not in order to be successful. So that's, you know, my challenge out to the dance world. You know, we reinforce negative body image by just even every single day. I know how many dancers, while they're putting on their leotards or their skirts or whatever it is, they're looking in the mirror while they're doing that and starting to judge themselves and set up their mood for the day based on how they look when they're getting dressed. You know, not everyone is able to choose what they wear. I know a lot of places have a uniform, but you know, how many dancers pull out the leg warmers or the skirts or the shorts or the jackets or whatever it is, sometimes full body tracksuits, baggy tracksuits, to cover up parts of their body that make them feel ashamed of themselves, and try to cover those parts up just to try and keep going, to say, I don't want that to bring me down today, so I'm going to cover it up. And so instead of loving their body and dancing because of their passion and using their body as an instrument to show the world their passion, we look at it and we scrutinize it and we say, no, it's not good enough, better cover up this part, better cover up that part, just to get by. So this, yeah, just that practice, that simple practice in the morning, it really can set up a dancer for a really bad day based on, you know, whether they look bad in their leotard or good or not, or whether this color promotes, you know, makes me feel better. We have such a vulnerable sense of confidence, and we really need to start to own our identities, who we are, how I look. This is me, and I'm going to feel confident because I'm me, and rely less on the mirror for that sense of self that we're looking for. There's also, you know, we compete and we compare based on our body image. You know, how many times has someone walked into a studio or a rehearsal and like, oh my God, have you seen her? Look what she's wearing. Who does she think she is? Or, you know, these little things that happen in the corners. Sometimes they're just looks and glances. Sometimes they're overt. Even just internal fat talk, you know, we do this every February. There's Fat Talk Free Month, and, you know, the Eating Disorders Australia, they run these, trying to create some awareness about fat talk and how we can try and eliminate it. And I think in the dance world, this is something we can really hold ourselves a lot more accountable to. Are we just letting ourselves fat talk the whole time and not saying this is not going to be helpful for our body image, this is not going to be helpful for our confidence and the way that we're dancing? You know, there's always, you know, dancers who have foot envy over someone else's arch. Now, an arch is something that you really can do very little to change. You know, yes, there's ways of strengthening your muscles in your feet, and there are ways of, you know, stretching and strengthening to improve and to maximize what you can do. But when we focus on other people and their body and we think we need to be like them, it really just makes us feel dissatisfied with ourselves. And when we feel dissatisfied, we usually feel ashamed. When we feel ashamed, we dance by holding back, and we hide ourselves rather than put ourselves out there, which is what we need to do in order to give something of ourselves that's going to move someone else and inspire them. So if we think about what are some of the you know, important ways that we can actually improve our body image, I think the first one is really just finding ways to accept yourself. And this is a lot of what I do in my work with dancers one-on-one, is spending time saying, what makes you unique? What are your strengths? What is it about your character that is something that you can be proud of? How are you beautiful? You know, so many dancers just don't believe they're beautiful. And that's not only for females, but there's a sense for males too, that am I strong enough? Am I beautiful enough? Do I portray myself well enough? And so in order to get that sense of self that goes deeper than body image and surface level, we really need to get in touch with who we are and have a strong sense of self. So accepting yourself, saying, you know, I have flaws. I have, you know, so for me, it was my shoulders that I always felt were too big. And, you know, I think I got a comment once from a teacher who said that, you know, had I done swimming, you know, because I had built up shoulders. And ever since that comment, I always felt self-conscious about my shoulders. Rather than our bodies, our uniqueness in our bodies is what makes us look like us. It's what makes us stand out when we're dancing. It's what gives us that way of moving that only you have. So if you want to learn how to become, to really own your body with its flaws, with its quirks, with its unique traits, and say, this is me and this is how I dance, you'll be able to dance a lot more truly from your heart, and that is ultimately what moves people. And I hope that as we're able to shift cultural standards, that this will also be valued by our directors and our choreographers, that they will look at a range of diverse bodies and be able to say, I'm inspired by all of them, and not just by one, because every single human being is inspiring and creative and passionate. And we need to start drawing out those strengths in a range of body shapes. I know Tamara Rojo in the English National Ballet has been, very outspoken in terms of how she's really wanting to create a healthy body image in her company and not employ underweight dancers. She's employing health and welfare support staff to be able to help make that happen. And I'd really like to see that go further in the dance world. I know in I think it was in Israel, in the modeling industry, they've brought in a system where models need to have a certain BMI, so a body mass index that is in a healthy range. There's some of these sort of global shifts that need to happen in the dance world in order to create a sense of healthy body image becomes a norm when we're not showing mixed messages. Yes, we want everyone to have a healthy body image, but no, we're not going to change our ideal dancer to do that. We're still going to hold on to this ethereal, skinny, long-legged, long-arched, long-necked, this really specific image as this is our ideal. And so if we want to actually help our dancers to have a strong sense of self and a confidence on stage that is about being themselves, we actually need to start creating some space for a diverse range of body images, of body shapes, to be part of our companies and part of our repertoire. The second thing we can do to help improve our body image is really by being yourself. So first you need to accept yourself, then you need to be yourself. You need to have the confidence to say, this is me. And if I can accept who I am with my flaws, but also with my unique traits that make me me, and my strengths, I'm going to actually have the courage to be myself and just own it and say, this is me and this is how I dance. If that's difficult for you, I really encourage you to think about someone who loves you for who you are and not for how you look. And I want you to imagine that they're the only one watching you. So think about how you feel when you're with that person, and imagine if they were the only one watching you dance, how would you dance? And draw strength from that relationship and that person who loves you unconditionally and not based on whether you have a great body or not. The third thing that we need to do if we want to start improving our body image is really by saying we're going to accept ourselves, we are going to be ourselves, and then the third thing is to draw out the best in each other. So rather than talking fat talk, comparing and competing, we actually need to draw the best out in each other. So you be your best and then bring out the best in each other. So compliment people not on their appearance, because that just reinforces a sense that I can only be happy with myself when my body is XYZ. Focus on effort. Look at what other people are doing, what effort they're putting in. Look at maybe their character trait. They're really persevering. They're really, showing that they're grateful for whatever it is they have, the opportunities they have, the job they have, the role in the school that they have, whatever it is. Look at people's effort, their improvement, their character traits that show that there's something you can compliment them on other than their bodies. So don't focus on the things that people can't control. Focus on the things that you can control, the things that you can change, and you can say, hey, I did something about that. So this is where we need to hold each other accountable for fat talking. If you see someone looking in the mirror before class, just say, you're beautiful. Don't worry about whether you wear the leg warmer or not. You don't need it. You look gorgeous. Be you. Encourage body positive talk rather than fat talk. And this comes from, I would love for this to come from a top down, not just for the dancers in the studio or in the change rooms, but really for this to come down from our directors and our choreographers and our ballet masters and our staff and our teachers. If you can bring out the best in others by showing them what are their strengths, what are they improving, where are they putting effort in, you'll actually change the way they see themselves. And if you do that, you'll bring out the best in them. And I really believe that if we are at our best, we'll bring out the best in others. So that's about all I have to talk about today. It's just on 9 o'clock. So thank you very much for joining us. I'd love to hear how you found this. So give me your feedback. There's a little pink box underneath the screen here that's with the survey link. So I'd love you to fill out the survey and give me your honest feedback about how you found today and what you'd like to see us do with this in the future. If you would like to ask any questions, next month we're going to be talking about how to cope with criticism. So a lot of the times, like I mentioned before with my shoulders, there was a once-off comment about me and my shoulders, and it stuck and it cut to my heart and it made me feel self-conscious about my shoulders. And I know that a lot of the time, a lot of dancers have something, one little thing that someone said to them without thinking about it that really cut to them and really affected their confidence. So we're going to talk about how to deal with criticism, how to deal with negative comments that come our way, and how can we cope with those? How can we deal with them and let them, wash over us rather than really bring us down? So yeah, I'd love for you to join us and please share this with your friends, with other dancers and other people in our industry that you think this would benefit. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm Philippa from Here to Help Dancers. Look forward to seeing you next month. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.